This is COIL Colombia, Building Intercultural Competence Through Collaborative Online International Learning. I'm Will Walker. I'm Associate Professor of History at the Cooperstown Graduate Program in Museum Studies at SUNY Oneonta.
And I'm Chilton Reynolds, and I work in the Teaching, Learning, and Technology Center here at SUNY Oneonta. And I do instructional support, and I'm also the COIL Nodal Network Coordinator on our campus.
And I am Cristina Montoya. I am an associate professor in foreign languages and literatures, and I have been involved with COIL since 2014.
Our presentation will start with talking about what is COIL, and then we'll detail our SUNY Oneonta project, actually our projects that we have done here over the course of the past several years. And then we'll talk about concrete results and further developments here on our campus.
So to start off with, we'd like to kind of give an idea of what COIL is. COIL is an acronym. It stands for Collaborative Online International Learning. There's a lot of other words for this. Global Partner Network is another main title for this. But the idea is that you have students from your own university working with students from an international university collaboratively in an online space. In SUNY, we have a SUNY-wide center called the COIL Center that helps promote COIL inside of the SUNY system, as well as helps to connect our faculty on all of our campuses with faculty from international institutions. And so we have created a bunch of different trainings to help support faculty both in the creation of COIL, in finding a partner to do a COIL with, and then supporting faculty as they actually implement the COIL into their classrooms. Because COIL is completely all online, it does rely on a lot of digital platforms to be able to use. The main ones that we have used on our campus are Facebook, Skype, and Zoom is another video conferencing platform that we've started to use a lot. WhatsApp and VoiceThread have been used for projects, and then we've pulled in additional web tools as needed. What's nice about this is usually with these projects, they start off with a specific goal in mind, and then it kind of spreads out from there as students from the two countries get to know each other much better. So it allows for a lot of flexibility and allows for a lot of different ways that students can interact with each other, both inside of the project and outside of the project. So kind of from start to finish of this, the way this works is when a faculty member is interested in doing a COIL project inside of their class, they would come talk to me as the COIL coordinator, and I would get them involved with one of the training programs from the COIL Center. Once we have kind of done initial training, then we try to find an international partner for the faculty member. Sometimes faculty already come with a partner in mind, in which case that kind of speeds up this whole project. Once the partners are together, then we have inside of SUNY, we have a training system in place to help the two partners work together to plan out their project. From thinking about time zones and if there's any differences in that, to how languages are going to be used inside of this between English and the other language and what's going to be the primary language used. And then it starts to look more at what type of project are they going to use. Is it going to be a simple project and just kind of a 2 to 3 week project, or you want to make it longer term? Most of the ones that we do, we recommend about 5 to 6 weeks for the project and not be the full length of the semester. That seems to work the best. So there's enough time for students to get together and interact, but also then not take up the full semester so you can still do other coursework. These interactions can be either synchronous or asynchronous, meaning they can happen at the same time where you're actually on Skype at the same time. That's much more challenging because it's very rare that your students and their students are going to be able to get there all at the same time. So a lot of the group projects happen asynchronously where they come in at different times. And then we encourage the students to get together with their individual partners or their individual groups in a synchronous session where we're not doing that as a full session. Once these have gone through, we've kind of look at them after the semester to kind of see how they have done and encourage people to do this from semester to semester once they have that, if they would like. As far as the benefits of COIL, we've seen lots of different ways that this has helped our students. To begin with, it just gives our students a lot more confidence of having an intercultural experience. Most of the students that do this are not students that even have traveling abroad or studying abroad on their radar. And so this is a much more comfortable experience and safe experience for students to kind of experience an intercultural or international experience. So by being able to do this, students are able to be more comfortable in an international and intercultural experience as they grow friendships with the students that they're working with through those. In addition, we've had lots of faculty-led trips that have happened because of this, where the faculty will actually take some of the students from the COIL and go to do things, which some of my co-presenters will be talking about in a little bit, and how this kind of becomes a bridge for our students to then be able to either think about going on a faculty-led trip or actually studying abroad as well.
So our project that we'll talk about is a partnership between SUNY Oneonta and Universidad del Valle in Cali, Colombia. And it involves faculty and students connecting in a variety of ways. We've actually implemented COIL in various undergraduate and graduate courses in language, history, culture, and museum studies over several semesters. And this project has really been collaborative, interdisciplinary, and now really a long-term project, a long-term collaboration. We have two main areas of focus with the work that we've been doing. The first is intercultural competence. So one important goal is for students to build their knowledge of history, culture, and language, and to understand connections to really contemporary issues. We also want to use this and have used this framework to encourage students to analyze class, race, gender, sexuality, and ability in new and complex ways. And we hope that, and we've seen, we have some data to show that it is helping to refine their ability to communicate and collaborate effectively in intercultural settings.
Our other area of focus is language learning, and I am from a department that teaches languages. Usually when we talk about COIL, the first idea that comes to a faculty is I'm not proficient enough to collaborate with this country in this other language. And some faculty initially may put a barrier because of language proficiency, but it's not the case. COIL, usually normally it is done in English. English is a language that most people in other countries know. So a lot of the projects that are interdisciplinary are carried out in English. In my case, I teach Spanish, and what we collaborate with Universidad del Valle is helping our students practice their language skills. They communicate orally based on a task that we give them. They learn more vocabulary, structures, they question the language proficiency that they have, and they learn about different dialects depending on who they're talking to. And in this case, it's the students from Valle del Cauca, which have a particular dialect. So language is learned pragmatically as well as skillfully because they are often negotiating meaning. In the United States, world language teachers are guided by the American Council of the Teaching of Foreign Languages. For this purpose, they have developed the World Readiness Standards for Learning Languages, which according to the organization, it defines the central role of world languages in the learning career of every student, and therefore educators find these standards very useful in curriculum design. So ACFL have come up with the 5 C's, as is commonly known. These 5 C's establish the importance between communicative and cultural competence as the core for global education and language proficiencies. In order to achieve this goal, applied learning is necessary where students are prompted to make connections and comparisons, and in using this competence to be part of local and global communities. Based on the 5 C's proposed by ACFL, I have been setting COIL goals I start the semester with some icebreakers, as some of the ones that you see there on the list. And also later on, through these icebreakers, they learn how to describe, narrate in the target language. And depending on the course level, I will select some modules, like some examples are listed on the slide, where some advanced students are able to provide opinions as they move on into the modules. So the proposed modules are planned ahead of time between the two faculty involved and looking at each individual syllabus and course objectives. The modules act as a collaborative assignment, and through it, students discover similarities and differences and are able to compare. The comparative analysis usually happens in each individual classroom discussion. Each professor at a different country facilitates the discussion while developing language proficiency. Topics that arise organically add more vocabulary beyond the one planned for this class. It is not usually taught in class, since we often follow a course textbook and a specific course objective, so whatever conversation comes up from the students chatting prompted by that module takes our collaboration further from our own course objectives. As the modules evolve, students start chatting with each other for different purposes. Sometimes just to complete the assigned collaborative task, other times to help each other with the language homework in each course, and other times just to socialize. In this socialization, they discover practices attached to each culture, products used, and various perspectives on the same issues that affect both countries. They discover that although practices, products, and perspectives may be different, societies suffer of similar problems and celebrate similar communal events, national pride, family and personal experiences, and all kinds of manifestations of identity. It becomes a very complex discovery that interdisciplinary learning must occur. Through COIL partnerships, students develop competence to communicate effectively by being able to compare, contrast, and understand differences and similarities while learning the language. Their communicative guided, and often not, provides them with cultural competence to participate in multilingual communities at home and around the world, which is the stated goal of World Language Learning by ACTFL. The topics that COIL partnership allows are endless. The goal with COIL would be to have multiple partnerships in multiple disciplines so that students may go through their required courses, finding COILs in many of them, and collaborating with various countries in the world. It is a low cost-effective pedagogical tool. It creates global communities, and we only need to be able to educate all faculty into it and create incentives to college professors so they also may become global learners as well. So coming to the end, communities are created by COIL. Communities where we could discuss race, power, politics, corruption, poverty, socioeconomic class. The topics are endless, as I mentioned before, and when we allow the students to collaborate and faculties from different countries learn from each other, then we are just targeting for intercultural competence and global education.
So an example of this is from the Cooperstown Graduate Program, which is a master's program in museum studies, which is part of SUNY Oneonta. And it's a program to train students to be curators, educators, administrators, all positions in museums. And one of our focal points is on building skills of intercultural communication and cultural competence, because these are essential skills for museum professionals in the 21st century. we as a program have a goal of improving how museums work with diverse communities, and COIL aligns with this goal very, very well. So my curriculum is based on the dialogue methods of the International Coalition of Sites of Conscience, which is a global network of historic sites, museums, and memory initiatives that connect past struggles to today's movements for human rights. So this is really obviously international by nature, and another aspect that sort of binds together these sites is really this focus on using sites to initiate and facilitate dialogue, often intercultural dialogue about tough issues that we as a society face. So specifically how I've implemented these dialogue methods is first by providing discussion guidelines for my courses, things like use I statements, keep an open mind, focus on the questions, stay focused on the task at hand. And this helps to kind of create an environment or climate in the classroom for really civil, productive conversation. Sites of Conscience also uses something called the arc of dialogue, which is almost like a story. It has a story would have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It would reach a climax, right, and have a denouement. Well, this is another way to think about facilitating dialogue, right? You start with community building, then progress to sharing the diversity of our experiences, then to kind of the climax of exploring the diversity of experiences beyond our own personal experiences, and then ending with a kind of synthesis. So this is all towards the goal of facilitating civil and productive conversations about tough social issues related to race, class, gender, sexuality, ability, and migration. So I've implemented COIL in several courses, all of which are kind of founded on these dialogue methods or dialogue principles from the International Coalition of Sites of Conscience. You can see the courses here: Migration and Community, Identity and Activism, and then also a special topics course, which was an interdisciplinary collaboration with Professor Montoya on the histories of slavery, race, and culture in Colombia. And in each of these courses, the various COIL assignments have ranged from student-to-student interactions on Facebook and Skype to kind of assignments where students had to share kind of local stories and histories. They've written reflection essays. They've conducted research on Colombian history and Colombian museums, specifically looking at how museums represent things like race and class and the history of slavery. And then most recently, we've worked with our partners in Cali on a collaborative program that we did here in the community called Sharing Bilingual Stories. Through the reflection essays, I've been able to gather some student reflections, and this is sort of some of the qualitative data that we have showing the effects of COIL for our students. And it's pretty clear that COIL aligns well with our broader goal of training culturally competent museum professionals. One student, for example, said, as aspiring museum professionals, we will be tasked with telling stories that are most likely not our own. So the more practice we get talking to people from different cultures and backgrounds, the more capable we will be at telling these stories. And students have also reported that their conversations go beyond sort of superficial things. They certainly talk about books and movies and things that they like, but I've also seen that students have progressed to conversations about politics, issues related to race, homophobia, all kinds of kind of serious issues that have been topics of conversation among the students. So for the student research project in the special topics course, I had students looking at museums and other cultural institutions in Colombia, specifically in Cali, Colombia. And they really came up with three main themes. First of all, race matters in Colombia. Second, Colombia is utilizing its cultural, environmental, and educational resources to attract foreign tourists. And third, that Colombia is pursuing social and economic development in creative and entrepreneurial ways. And they really discovered this through a combination of COIL, so speaking with their partners in Colombia, and a group of these students were also able to travel to Cali, Colombia over spring break last March. And then finally, this semester, we've tried a new project. This is a collaborative program development. We developed a family program geared for children ages 5 through 12 and their families at the Village Library of Cooperstown. Our partners in Cali at Universidad del Valle shared ideas with us, helped with brainstorming, and also developed a video that told the story of a local legend in Cali of Busiraco, the demon. And we played that video in the program, and then the children who attended created their own puppet show to tell their own stories. And we also were able to highlight some of the new books that our village library has purchased in Spanish or bilingual, so bilingual texts.
So moving to concrete results, and before we tell you what we have concretely, I would like to highlight that the experiment here that we're showing with our collaboration with Cali has been at the undergraduate and graduate level. So some of the topics evolved that Professor Walker is talking about are at the graduate level, but that doesn't mean that the undergraduate, the deep discussions have not occurred. At the undergraduate level, with let's say novice to intermediate proficiency of the language, some of these difficult topics also had been evolved, because as they take on conversations, they just continue and making sure that they're able to communicate either in English or Spanish or whatever language they need to get their point across. So another myth that may happen in when a faculty member is faced with COIL is what kind of levels of courses would you be able to use COIL? And from our experience, any level could work with COIL. It's just having a flexible, open teaching mind. Some of our concrete results are that we were able to take students to tell their story, be the protagonist of this experience. We took them at the last COIL conference in 2016, and then we're planning to take them again in 2018. And some of these stories are in a blog that they created themselves, so we have blogs. Also, last semester, we were able to combine COIL with a short-term immersion trip. And this was my course in Spanish and culture. It was an intermediate course called Salsa, Sugar, and Coffee. And this is the interdisciplinary work that I did with Professor Walker, where he provided us with all the knowledge of history and slavery and how the salsa rhythms fit into this history. So it was a journey of the salsa music from Africa to Cuba, Puerto Rico, New York, and then finally ending in Cali. It was a beautiful course, and we took 20 students to Cali, Colombia last spring semester. There is linguistic and cultural competence improved for all of our students and also us as professors. As we work in collaboration, we learn from each other as well. And we learn a lot of procedures that are done in the other country that we didn't know about. It is a more interesting semester, definitely, using applied learning. And collaborations are endless, and there's a lot of friendships that come out of this to collaborate even more. And we addressing our college mission, which is to educate our students globally. One of the challenges that we are facing now is how can we move from the anecdotal part of this, where we tell the story, where we tell what happened with the students, the qualitative data that we get from our reflections, to a more quantitative data. So in the COIL SUNY Center page, they have some tools for us, and one of them is this cross-cultural toolkit, where there are surveys and there are reflections and collaborations and rubrics that we may use and adapt. And this semester in my language courses, I studied a survey, a modified survey from this toolkit that will let me know, and this is what I am currently analyzing with a research student that is collaborating with me from here. I am analyzing how much students believe that their proficiency in the language has improved after COIL, and also I am asking them questions that will prompt me to see how much flexible in intercultural understanding they were at the beginning of the semester, and what kind of answers they give me at the end of the semester. So currently we are trying to assess this experience, this applied learning experience, through more quantitative data.
So to bring it back to the bigger picture, as you can see, this is a lot of the work that's been done through this very specific initiative inside of COIL, where we're really focused on connecting with Colombia. And we've had a lot of great things that have come out of that. Between faculty that have dedicated to more research with Colombia, lots of faculty members that have actually gotten to travel down to Colombia to partner with their partners. But the bigger picture in this is that we started doing COIL on our campus in 2013, and we have been slowly growing this on our campus. This past semester, we had 13 different courses that were running COIL at the same time. 6 of those came out of the COIL Colombia initiative that we were working on, and then we had some others that were going on from previous COILs as well. In order to make this work on our campus, we have identified some different ways of funding to help support this. We've had some local travel grants that have happened inside of our own university. We've connected with the SUNY COIL Center to get some international grants that have happened that have allowed our students to travel as well, or allowed our faculty to travel as well. And we are continuing to find ways to help support faculty from that moment of, yes, I want to do this, to finding a partner and actually trying to help them travel to those places. So on our campus, we just gave out faculty travel grants for this next year and had awarded 6 different grants, and many of those are looking to establish COIL for moving forward. As Professor Montoya said earlier, this is not something that is targeted on any one level of course or any one department. We have really targeted faculty across campus. Of the faculty that have done this, I think at this point we've now have had COILs go on in 10 different departments across campus, and have happened at every level from introductory geography courses to our master's levels courses with the Cooperstown graduate program. And so it really is across the range of classes, across the range of types of classes where we've been able to do this. Again, to echo what Professor Montoya said, the biggest thing that matters in this is to have a faculty member who's flexible and willing to work with some uncertainties sometimes, because there are times where technology does not work, where time zones change unexpectedly with daylight savings time, and all of a sudden your whole schedule is thrown off. And so by having some flexibility in the course really helps with that. We are excited for where we're moving forward with this, for we're looking forward to recruiting more people to go down to Colombia, hopefully in the next year, in addition to targeting some new countries to work with as well for moving forward.
If you have any questions about our project, what we're doing here on campus at SUNY Oneonta, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to any of us. We've provided our email addresses here. Thank you for listening.